Welcome to Under the Bleachers. I'm Chris Ransom. That is the founder of Under the Bleachers, William Yanish. That is not a Jets hat, by the way. That's a Niners hat. I know it might look gray like it's a Niners hat. There's an S, there's an F. There's no effing around like what the Jets are doing as far as trade rumors are going, which I discussed with William off the air. You know, why don't we just open up with that and then we'll get into the combine nuggets. So the rumor with the Jets is they're looking at two quarterbacks. They're looking at two former Stanford quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks in the post-Andrew Luck retirement era out of Stanford. They're looking at Davis Mills, and they are looking at they're looking at Davis Mills, and they're looking at Tanner McKee, his successor. Those are the two de facto finalists, and that just screams we're not trying to compete. We're trying to get Arch Manning. We're trying to get CJ Carr. We're trying to get Julian Sayin. That screams that, William. And it doesn't
stop tanking.
Loudly. It screams that loudly. And you got all these people.
Well, that's what they were trying to do this year.
Yeah, like they are. They're trying to tank. They were trying to get Mendoza, and they didn't.
The Doza. Yeah, and it's like, dude, obviously, this year
about the NBA teams tanking to try to get better draft picks. They're not tanking to the extreme the Jets are tanking. If NBA teams are tanking, then the Jets are committing nuclear genocide. Literally.
Yeah. No, let me tell you what that does to a team. As a competitor, it's like, that drives down the morale of a team. It's just one of those things that as a competitor, you absolutely hate it. And I can understand some maybe, oh yeah, we'll get a better player, but the best players aren't necessarily drafted, the first ones drafted. And it's just that simple, and especially with the quarterback class that we have this year. I mean, we've got Mendoza, we've got Carson Beck, we've got, Diego Pavia, which, I mean, there's Garrett Nussmeier, there's Baron Moore, there's a bunch of guys that can develop, but will they? That's like the whole thing. Will they develop? And it's not looking a whole lot different than 2022 with Kenny Pickett, and Matt Corral and Malik Willis. And let me tell you, I saw this morning where they said that, oh, Malik Willis is going to get at least $30 million. He'll be lucky to get half that. I mean, he hasn't done anything that lasted over time. I mean, he just kind of stepped in, played some games.
Funny. Malik thinks he has the leverage right now. He has about as much leverage as a cat scratching a toy, or one of those. I'm not talking about the balls
slipping on ice, slipping on the ice right before they fall into the water.
Yeah,
I like the kid and everything, but he was completely inaccurate as a quarterback. I mean,
he was in a really good system in Green Bay under LaFleur. He's not going to get $30 million to start for a team.
No. And it's like, some teams are going to bring him in. I wouldn't say. I would say, a team like the Jets, but not the Jets apparently because of what they're doing. But I'm just saying one of those teams that really needs one.
I think the Vikings want to bring in competition for McCarthy, but they also want a quarterback they can lowball, a quarterback they can get to push McCarthy for $20 million or less, and that's Malik Willis in a nutshell.
Yeah, for real. And it's like he flashes. He can obviously play a little, but he's got a ton of work to do. And
plus,
like you said, that's a very quarterback-friendly system.
You get intel on the Packers. You get intel on the Packers playbook. You can pick his brain a little bit. So logistically, that
always
makes a lot of sense.
Like Belichick used to do. Signing Jets players. But no, man. This year is just not the year. If you need a quarterback, you might as well wait until next year. And that's, I think, exactly what the Jets are trying to do.
There's a lot of teams in quarterback purgatory. I've said this since the season ended. There's like three teams: the Raiders, maybe the Jets, and the Steelers that could take quarterbacks this year. But the Jets and Steelers are in quarterback purgatory, meaning if they don't like the quarterback class, they can wait till 2027.
Well, the Jets have kind of always been in quarterback purgatory.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of those things. But with this year, there's just one thing that we're talking about quarterbacks, this rookie class. I would like to ask, I mean, obviously Tom Brady has come out, said that he loved Mendoza, everything else, fine, good. That's what you do when you're trying to trade, and it's like when they just asked Kyle Shanahan about Mac Jones, and he said, well, I can't imagine him not being here.
What if Tom Brady decided to unretire on the day of the draft and sign a deal with the Raiders? Like, he's been training with Gronkowski.
Oh, yeah.
He's been training with Gronkowski. I think he is too old to play in the NFL, but, Brady and Gronk look good in warm-ups today. He still has it. So what if he decided to unretire and sign with the Raiders on draft day? First owner / quarterback.
That's the thing. This just isn't a pick that is guaranteed, and everybody automatically thinks that it's Mendoza. And it's like, okay,
I do think it's Mendoza, but at the same token, I don't know who else they would pick. The Raiders are moving to a 34 defense, too, by the way. Clint Kubiak announced at the Combine the Raiders are changing defensive schemes from the 43 to the 34. The Raiders have been a 43 team since the 70s when they had Madden and Al Davis. Okay, they've ran the same 43 defense. It feels like for 55 years now.
Yeah.
So they're switching the scheme. Maybe they did run 34 in the early 2010s, but it feels like they've been a 43 team for most of their existence.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering when somebody's going to come out with something new on defense. It's like, I know the league wants to score more points and make it more exciting for fans and such, but it's like, dude, I mean, it's one of those things. And like I said, I just read the article where it had the top free agent quarterbacks. It had Daniel Jones, Malik Willis, freaking who else did I just say was on there? I was talking to you about. Aaron Rodgers. and it's like, those aren't.
Aaron Rodgers is the only guy in that group that has the leverage to demand whatever he wants. Everyone else, and even if you pay him what he wants, it could end up biting you in the rear end.
Yeah, that's kind of what I see, because he's about the most selfish quarterback that I've ever seen. Just saying, which kind of rubs me the wrong way. I love cockiness in a quarterback, but whatever Aaron has going on, it isn't cockiness. It's like just kind of stuck upness or something, and I don't know, man. If I were Brady, with the quarterbacks coming out the next couple of years, how do you pronounce that game? That name, Nikos from Tennessee and then UCLA.
Nico Imalieva year's draft.
Yeah, and just seeing some of the guys coming out the next couple of years, it's like, what if the Raiders, just traded back, stockpile some picks and stuck Geno in there for another year?
They're not going to do that because they're not guaranteed to pick at one again. You're never guaranteed to pick at one again. Historically speaking, you're not.
And the Jets found that out.
One. And
no matter how bad you are, no matter how many fights you start with your quarterback, Justin Fields, like Woody Johnson did. It was like, dude, what do you got going on here? I mean, Justin Fields, in the right system, I feel he could absolutely do something. I mean, he's got the legs. It's his arm that kind of gets in the way. But it's like, I don't know. And what I was talking about, the Niners saying that, oh yeah, Mac Jones, we expect him to be here, everything else. It's like, yeah, that's what they say just before.
Mac Jones, Malik Willis, these NFL teams are looking at which of these guys is going to take the least amount of money. That's what they're looking at. They want all these guys, but who's going to take the least amount of money? Who's going to be the cheapest? Yeah. That's basically going to determine who gets signed first. And then the market's going to dry itself up.
Yeah. And I mean, for what it's worth. Who is a fourth quarterback? We got that right here. Joe Flacco. That was the fourth quarterback for the fourth best free agent. Alongside his teammate.
Yep.
Sure, but I don't know, man. Like I said, this just isn't the year. If you need a quarterback, you might as well, stick Geno in there if we're talking about the Raiders for another year and stockpile some picks. But who knows what they're doing?
You're not guaranteed to get the number one pick in 2027. That's the problem. You're not guaranteed to get Julian Sayin or Arch Manning. So you take those on the roll. That's kind of the thought process. I don't think, unless the Raiders actually move one, and they told the Jets, we want 4 number 1s and Garrett Wilson. The Jets wouldn't do that, even if there was a QB as good as Caleb Williams or Andrew Luck or Trevor Lawrence in this draft. They would not give that up.
Crazy.
So they're pretty much.
That's absolutely crazy.
That's the return for number 1. That's what the Raiders want for number 1. They're not going to get that. They could get 2. They can get a first rounder in 2027, and they might get Garrett Wilson, but they'd have to guarantee the Jets aren't taking Mendoza, and that's pretty much the game. The Jets pretty much would only give that up if they knew they were getting Mendoza, and even if they did that, they wouldn't have a weapon. They wouldn't have a number 1 receiver for their quarterback. I think that'd be a worse situation to go to than the Raiders, because at least the Raiders, you have Bowers, you have Ginty, you have some building blocks. If you go to the Jets, you have no running game with Breece Hall gone. You have no number 1 receiver, and you're completely dependent on Fashanu and Membu, the bookend tackles they just spent first-round picks on.
Yeah, and I sure like Mason Taylor.
And Taylor could be used in fantasy with Mason Taylor could be used in fantasy with Mendoza, but that's all you have. You have Mason Taylor, the tackle. Yeah. It's not a good situation. It's a worse situation.
They haven't done anything. They haven't done anything to build something. To have a quarterback back there that's not running for his life. And I think that's one thing you kind of have to do is get the team to a level at least where the quarterback can survive. And
there's going to be a lot of teams that take quarterbacks this year, William, but they're going to take teams. They're going to take quarterbacks to where it's low risk, high reward. So, for example, the Jets, they will take a quarterback at 33, but they will not take a quarterback in round 1, because if the quarterback at 33 sucks, they can just get their quarterback in 2027 and move on and call it a day.
Yeah.
And keep the other guy in a rookie deal.
Yeah. I still can't get over that 4 first for Mendoza, though, and Garrett Wilson. It's like, dude.
And one of those 4 first
in the history of this league.
So one of those first has to be the second pick. That's the other caveat. So number 2 and Garrett Wilson are the requirements, and then we want 3 more first-round picks on top of that. You're not getting that even if Andrew Luck was in this draft.
Dude, I just went through this, watching my Niners draft Trey Lance every year for 3 years in the first round, and it was just, I wanted to pull my freaking hair out, and I
went through the same thing with Mac Jones in that draft, and I had a second-round grade on Mac Jones. I didn't even have a first on Mac Jones. I had a first on Lawrence, Fields, Lance, and Zach Wilson. I had a first on those 4. I had a second on Mac Jones. I gave the Patriots a C- for taking Mac Jones at 15.
Mac Jones had receivers just above and beyond, and all he had to do was kind of throw the ball up there, which he did.
He had the tackle. He had Najee Harris. He had everything at Alabama. Okay, let's not act like he did.
And it's like this guy can absolutely, play, but how long is it going to take him to get to that level? And who knows if he even is, shining out with a team like the Niners isn't that hard of a thing because of the supporting cast that they have, and obviously that supporting cast is getting a little bit older now and they need to retool. And, I've been very outspoken about this and, straight said, we need a Kittle replacement because that offense runs through George Kittle and he, hitting the wrong side of 30. He's the best tight end in the league, but tearing your Achilles, I mean, I just caught a reel of that again, dude. It just made me sick because it was like, dude, that was when I knew the season was over, was when Kittle went out. That's why I have them drafting Max Clare. I have other ones like Michael Trigg. I mean, I think that he can be maybe Kyle's Shannon Sharp as his father, had Shannon Sharp. I mean, the one thing is going to Baylor and watching the film on him is they don't use tight ends other than to block. I had to go back to Ole Miss
I'm
and
trying to
see.
think.
He's
What have
absolutely
we heard with the
capable.
Cardinals at 3? I don't think the Cardinals have really tipped their hand. The Jets have kind of tipped their hand. The Raiders have kind of tipped their hand on what they're doing. Not necessarily who they're drafting, but what their plans are for the season. Titans haven't really done anything, and the Titans and Cardinals haven't said anything yet. The Giants, Arvell Reese, they're looking at him as a middle linebacker in their 34 defense. I don't think they're going to pick Arvell Reese. I know he's in the conversation, but one, I think the Titans, Cardinals, or Jets, one of them is going to reach for Reese and screw up. 2,
oh man,
the Giants have a lot of edge rushers. They've got Abdul Carter. They've got Brian Burns. They still have Thibodeau on a rookie deal. They're not going to take another edge rusher. And if they take Arvell Reese, he'd have to play middle linebacker with the Giants. So if the Giants have narrowed it down to Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, and Reese, I think they're either taking Downs or Love at 5. And I would lean toward Downs. I know Tate's the betting favorite to go to the Giants, but with the intel Charlie Campbell revealed today at the Combine that the Giants are looking at Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, and Jeremiah Love, that changes the dynamic in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that tells me they're going for one of those 3 at 5, and they're probably getting their receiver on day 2.
Yeah. And the one thing with the Cardinals is this is a team that consistently ends up with the players that I like Trey McBride, like Jordan Travis, or not Jordan Travis, the guy who played with him, Trey, the running back.
They got Paris Johnson Jr., the left tackle out of Ohio State. They need a bookend right tackle. They could end up with Fano out of Utah, or they could end up with Francis Mauigoa. I hear those are the 2 they're looking at.
Trey Benson.
They're looking at the Miami tackle, and they're looking at the Utah tackle as a right tackle because those 2 are guys they're looking at. Their right tackle, Jonah Williams, is a free agent, and word is he's not coming back. So they're looking at those possibly. They're also looking at Love. They're looking at edge rushers. So they haven't decided. They're doing their due diligence, and they're not tipping their hand. So I'd say right now they're playing the strongest poker game of the teams in the top 5. The Titans are looking at edge rusher. They're looking at safety. They're looking at Jeremiah Love. They're looking at the tackles. So I'd say the Titans and Cardinals right now are playing the best poker of the teams in the top 5.
Well, and the Cardinals absolutely have to. I mean, they have had this Kyler Murray, not watching film, not showing up kind of thing going from the very beginning. That needs to absolutely change. He needs a fresh start. Let him go play Call of Duty for somebody else. It'll probably be like Miami or something when they eventually.
He's not going to go to the Jets. The Jets.
No.
The Cardinals have been trying to ship Kyler to the Jets, but the Jets, the fact that they came out and said, we're looking at Davis Mills, we're looking at Davis Mills, we're looking at Tanner McKee, that tells me they have no interest in taking on a huge contract at quarterback. And that leads me to believe how many other teams, that leaves the Dolphins and the Steelers as the only other teams you can get a trade with Kyler Murray. Because I don't think the Cardinals are going to move Kyler Murray to an NFC team. They might just roll with Kyler and Brissett again if they can. Or they might just release him off the team first. And they get nothing for him because they're idiots. That's also an option.
Well, the thing is, Kyler's going to try to pull the leverage that, hey, I was just the number 1 pick a few years ago. I've had however many seasons.
7 years ago, and he made a 1 playoff game and he lost it to the Rams. That's his resume in 7 seasons.
Yeah.
It's not a good resume.
He put up some yards, but he's still going to try to play on that to try to have a
And this is
little
the
bit of
thing:
leverage.
the
But he doesn't
Cardinals
have it.
are not going to get a first for Kyler Murray. They're going to get maybe a second and a third, or 2 seconds and 3/3,
Yeah,
and
there
they're
ain't
going
no
to
way
have
in
to
hell
take
it's
on
going to be a
half his
first.
salary. They're going to either
Yeah.
have to take 2 seconds or 3/3, and they're going to have to pay half his salary. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They want a team to take on all of his salary and give up draft picks out the ass.
Ain't going to happen.
That's not going to happen. We both know that's not how this story's ending. Like Samuel L. Jackson says in The Kingsman. We both know that's not how this story's ending, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. Especially when there's quarterbacks out there like Mac Jones, that, I see him going for a second round pick. I can see the asking price being a first, but I don't see him getting it, and they're, Kyle and Lynch are going to play, their biggest deal trying to say, oh, yeah, well, we don't know who else we're going to have in here. You got to kind of.
You know what you do if you're the
They're going to play
Niners?
ball, dude.
You know what you do if you're the Niners? You call Arizona and you say, look, we will give you Mac Jones for 65. And then you take Garrett Nussmeier and reload. Because right now a lot of mock drafts have Nussmeier to the Cardinals at 65.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
just
you do.
have him replaced. That would be beautiful, man. Either Nussmeier. Let's see who else.
I
is
don't
there?
think John Lynch has the
I wouldn't
audacity or the stones to trade a quarterback, a backup to a division rival. I don't think he has the stones to do that. And yes, it's suicide if it works, if it blows up in your face and Mac Jones, all of a sudden he takes the Cardinals to the playoffs, that trade ends up biting you in the rear ends too. So that's the other reason why you don't trade with rivals. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad move. We'll see.
Let's see who else can be had in this quarterback class, because
I think the Browns are going to take someone in the draft. I think they're going to trade Dillon Gabriel to the Falcons. Because right now the Falcons are going to cut Cousins to save money, and Penix may not be back from his torn ACL until December of next year. So who's going to be your starting quarterback? Or you could throw one of these rookies into the fire, but that would be a disaster. I think Matt Ryan knows that. And Stefanski loved Dillon Gabriel. That was the quarterback he wanted the Browns to. So I think the Browns and Falcons are going to make a trade, and Dillon Gabriel's going to go to Atlanta for a 4th-round pick and the 4th or 6th-round pick. Atlanta traded their 5th to the Eagles. So I think the Browns are either going to get a 4th or 6th-round pick for Gabriel, and they're going to get somebody like Klubnik or Aller in round 6 as a backup to Shedeur. So they can say, we have a little bit of leverage.
Aller.
Shedeur will be the implied starter. Probably Aller, if I had to guess.
Yeah. And Aller, I can see he is such a tough quarterback. I mean, he is just, I love his toughness.
Speaking
He's
of Aller,
as
he's
tough
in
as a Walmart steak,
throwing
dude.
at the combine this weekend. He's throwing at the combine. Drew Aller.
He's got to do that to up his draft stock,
Yeah, I mean, his draft stock took a massive hit. Klubnik, too, because at the beginning of the year, Nussmeier, Klubnik, and Aller were all in the top 5. Now none of them are expected to get picked before day 3. Nussmeier is the best shot to crack day 2. The other 2 quarterbacks have a lot of hoops to jump through just to even get out of the early portion of day 3 in the 4th round. So,
and what the Niners have been doing for backup quarterbacks lately, since what happened in 2023, in the championship game, we have been using retreads, quarterbacks that Sam Darnold, Mac Jones, guys that were taken so high, that had so much hype behind them, and putting them into Shanahan's system and saying, hey, look, we got a backup. And like you said, either taking Nussmeier, I wouldn't mind having Nussmeier, Aller, or even Carson Beck replace Mac Jones. I just think it can be a chance to get a draft pick, or to at least get some stability at the position, because I mean, Josh Johnson, that was, anyway, just what happened in that game was bad. And I think that's why they started doing it this way. But I mean, Kyler Murray is one of those quarterbacks that was drafted so high and had so much. I don't know. I don't like him so much as a player, but I could actually see Shanahan, signing him and plugging him in, just in case whatever happens to Purdy, because that's all I'm seeing is backup quarterbacks as I scroll down.
Yeah, it's
list.
not a great. Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback that has any leverage, and the reason that is he won a Super Bowl. He just took the Steelers to the playoffs, and he still has one more year left in him. He's the only quarterback that has any leverage this offseason. Everyone else has to take what NFL teams give them.
Yeah,
and teams love it when they have the leverage and they know the players don't have any leverage, but players hate it. But the players are acting like they've got all the leverage because they're not, especially the younger guys.
Like, they've been fighting that for years now, man. It's like, it's like, okay, you can go out there, do your thing, show them who you are, but you really don't have as much leverage as, the billionaires in the
established quarterbacks that are good star players after they get drafted. It's like right now, I think Dak Prescott at $60 million is the highest paid quarterback in the league. I'm guessing Stroud will probably break that record because the Texans are going to have anywhere between 317 and 500 million in 2028 when both Will Anderson and Stroud become UFAs and their rookie deals are up. So that's when the money for Stroud's new contract, Will Anderson's new contract, that's when the money will kick in, 2028. So they're probably going to have to spend half of a fraction of that 300 to 500 million in cap space on those two players just to keep them.
Yeah. That definitely sounds about right,
I'm guessing Stroud's going to get anywhere between $54 and $61 million. He could demand 64 since he's won the wild card game 3 years in a row. I don't think the Texans are going to pay him that much, though. But I think they would pay him more than Dak to keep him at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing.
And then the quarterback market will reset itself again when Caleb Williams and Drake May all enter because those guys will all be eligible for extensions in 2029, starting in 2027. So Caleb, Drake May, Bo Nix, Dane Daniels, they're going to reset the QB market starting in 2029. I think if Drake May gets the Patriots to another Super Bowl and they win, Drake May can be the first quarterback in the league history to make 64 to 70 million a year.
Yeah, he absolutely can. And obviously, like I've been so outspoken on that, he was my QB1 and I didn't have it relatively close. It just Drake May
right now that's what we're going to see the quarterback market reset in 2027.
The one thing though, I absolutely love the idea of what you were saying, about getting the Cardinals to trade you a second round pick and then for Mac Jones and then, plugging in one of these guys. The one quarterback that I would absolutely pick to be plugged in like that would be Carson Beck. And that's all he needs is a supporting cast. I mean, people will, I'm sure that people cussing about that already, shaking their head, telling me I'm foolish and everything else, and it's like, no, like really, they could plug him in with a rookie deal, and have the not worry about having a backup quarterback for 4 years.
Who's skipping the combine?
Or, depending on that.
Mendoza's skipping the combine. Mendoza's not going to be at the combine. Ruben Bain Jr. is not going to be at the combine. He's not going to work out in the on-the-field drills. Miami pass rusher. There's questions about his small arm length. I think that's being overblown by the scouts. I think Ruben Bain Jr. is the second best player after Mendoza. You could argue he's the best player in the entire draft. I think the concerns about him are basically the same as the concerns about Will Campbell. They're being overblown.
Yeah. That's 100% true, man. And now I hear,
Jordan Tyson's not working out at the combine either. So your questions about his speed, his explosiveness, those are going to remain question marks since he's not working out at any of the drills at the combine.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's one thing that I like to see. That's why I like seeing these players go to the East West Shrine Bowl, to the Senior Bowl. It's so much better having that week of practice before compared to the Underwear Olympics, where
And you can
half the
get
guys
more
don't want to
information
show up.
about players at the Senior Bowl and their pro days than you can at the combine. That's the other
Yeah,
thing.
it's so much more, man. And I mean, yeah,
And private workouts, you can get so much more tangible knowledge, intangibles, and all that other stuff. You get that at those events, those 3 events. So I'm looking at this group, and I think there's a lot that's up in the air. I've not heard anything about Carnell Tate or Makai Lemon yet. We heard something about Jordan Tyson. I'm looking at what's happening right now.
That's about where I'm headed. Oh, that was one thing I was going to say. Now I'm starting to hear everything about arm length with freaking defensive line. It's like, I understand that, but this is also about the first year where I'm starting
Piper
to
now has
see more and more of that.
Tate on the Browns at 6, and I agree. Carnell Tate's probably going to be a Brown, because if the Giants are looking at Reese, Downs, and Love at 5 instead of Carnell Tate, that means the odds are going to pivot from Carnell Tate to one of those 3, and I'm guessing they're going to pivot to Caleb Downs, because the Cowboys are looking at Downs as well. There's all these rumors that the Cowboys are going to trade up with the Browns for Caleb Downs. That only happens if the Giants take Love or Tate at 5. That only happens if the Giants take Love or Tate. If the Giants take Downs, they screw the Cowboys out of Tate, and any leverage the Browns have to move out of 6 disappears, and they have to take their guy.
Yeah. And that is one thing with the wide receivers in this class we've talked. There's none that are absolute burners. There's not, anybody that's close to being.
There's 3 guys that can run every route on the route tree, and Tyson, Lemon, and Tate. But there's not a guy that's dominant of those 3. I think Tyson's got the highest ceiling. He's the best at catching in traffic, but with his medicals, his speed concerns, he might need 4 years to develop and reach that ceiling. Lemon's going to need 3 years. I think Tate's only going to need 2 years to reach his ceiling, but I see a guy like Amari Cooper, a very steady Eddie. I don't see that Hall of Fame blue chip wide receiver. I don't see a Larry Fitzgerald. I don't see a Calvin Johnson with Carnell Tate. Some Browns fans will argue that he's not. He's a very good receiver. No. He might be the next Amari Cooper, but he's not going to be Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald good.
Out of all of them, I like Tate the most. That's because of his size and because of his pedigree, and it's like Tyson. Like I said, the only knock I had on him was that I was kind of looking at him and Lemon, at the same time. And Lemon played as big as Tyson does, and he finished his plays kind of like a running back with a little bit of a pop, every time.
Yeah, and he won
it's just the point about,
Bolitnikoff this year, Makai Lemon. That's why he's my wide receiver 2, and Tate's moved down to 3. But I think all 3 guys could get picked in the top 10. There's reports that the Chiefs love Tate. They love Reuben Bain. They love Jeremiah Love. I don't know who the Chiefs love. I think the Chiefs are sending all these BS smoke screens so that one of the guys they love falls to them at 9.
Yeah,
because
that's generally how
I think they have 5 or 6 guys they love. So they're just going to say they love those 6 guys to boost their chances of dropping to 9.
Exactly. And, so many people, so many of these fans that I see on Facebook and such, they're like, oh, so-and-so said this, so they're not going to do that. Oh, really? That's usually what they say right before a trade happens.
They love Jeremiah Love. They love player, They love Peter Woods. They love the 3 wide receivers, Tyson, Tate, Lemon. They love those 3. They love Kenyon Sadiq. They're driving up the value of those guys to make sure they get their guy. If I had to guess, they probably want Spencer Fano at 9, but they're driving up the value of those guys so Fano drops to their lap at 9.
Yeah.
And they can cut Jawan Taylor and save $20 million cap space. That is my educated guess on what I think the Chiefs are going to do. They are blatantly driving up the value of these guys so that they get Fano at 9.
And that's one thing, like I mentioned, Kyle Shanahan and talking up Mac Jones so well. I absolutely believe that, that's who he expects to be the backup quarterback in San Francisco next year. But that is also because, I mean, who else is going to be? I mean, so when there's a little bit of a lot of truth in a lie, it just goes over so much better, and I think, Shanahan is kind of one of those guys where he picks the guys he absolutely loves, like Bill Belichick used to do. He would get his players, and I understand the whole thing. I've said that so many times. It's like that's how I am in fantasy football. Generally, I get the players I want, and sometimes might have to overpay a little, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I just love fantasy football.
It sounds like
reason,
New England's going to win the best draft award at the Inside the League seminar. The Patriots, Browns, Bears, Panthers, Saints, and Giants are all finalists for the best draft award. The Patriots deserve the award undoubtedly. They had 5 rookies win Player of the Game. Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Trevian Henderson, Andres Borregales, and 4th-round pick Craig Woodson. They had 5 rookies, so I don't think anyone else was even close. I know the Browns may have had rookies play more minutes, but did their rookies have a bigger impact on the Patriots rookies? I would say no. I mean, basically the 2 Browns rookies that had a significant impact were Mason Graham, the 1st-round pick, and Judkins. Those were the only 2 rookies that did win Player of the Game. I know Schlesinger did win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was like the only player with 10 sacks, 100 tackles, 10 sacks, 100 tackles, 10 interceptions, 10 deflections. He's the only rookie that was consistent enough to win the award. Do I think he's a good player down the road 4 or 5 years from now? No. But I think the Browns are going to stick with him. They're going to roll with him and see what happens. And then Harold Fannin looks good as well, but he didn't dominate enough. But that's because he was splitting reps with Njoku. He'll be the undisputed tight end 1 next season. He'll break out next year as a result.
That was one thing. Like I just mentioned fantasy football. Like you and me, we were both freaking snagging Fannin wherever we could. As Giddy, in the late 3rd round, it was like I got one here.
Yep.
I think I drafted him in.
I got him in round 4. I think if you're under the Patriots league, or right was round 3. I don't remember. It was round 3 or 4. I think it was round 4 because I took Jalen Royals, the Chiefs receiver, in round 3. So when Fannin fell to round 4, I was like, all right, we're going to move up and get this guy because Njoku only has 1 year left on his contract. We're going to move up and get this guy. And you ended up with Ferguson, so you didn't come out bad.
Was it Ferguson? Wait a minute. Hold on. I got to take a look at this, see how it went. Because I remember that. And I was like, dude. It was like when you snagged Justin Herbert right in front of me. I was like, yeah. In our startup draft, it was just one of those things.
No, that's you again. I thought it was Joey. I guess your audio's having some issues, but yeah, it's like I don't know what else is going on
here.
I don't know what's going on.
It's faded out on me like 3 times. I'm not sure why. It generally doesn't do that. That's something new. Oh man, I don't know how to run that on there. Anyway, I know I got somebody right after that. Anyway. But yeah, dude, I mean, there are so many strengths to this draft. If you take quarterback out of the equation, people might think it's a shallow draft, not much, but it really is, between the defensive linemen, between some of the cornerbacks, it seems like there's There are
Yeah,
so
and
many
this
that
is
are
what I
mid-round
think we're going to head toward.
capable.
Closing thought. I'm not going to talk about NFL anymore. I've got a closing thought on college football, William. I think we're going to get pro-relegation college football, and here's what I mean. If an FCS team beats an FBS team in their bowl game, plays their best starters, and beats the FBS team, they get to come into Division One. They get to come into the FBS. If they don't, they stay where they're at. And Division Two can move up to the FCS. Division Three can move up to Division Two. I think the NCAA needs to start putting FCS teams in bowl games against NCAA teams that sit their starters like Notre Dame. Because if the FCS team can win, it means they've earned a promotion to the FBS.
Yeah, and there's so much, man. It's
because I think North Dakota
some
State could beat some teams, FBS teams in some bowl games. I do if they played their best starters. I'm
sure they could.
And
like watching
South Dakota State could too. I mean, I don't think they'd make the playoff, but I think these teams could beat some teams in the FBS, and that's why I say give an FCS team an opportunity to move up to the FBS by having them play a 6-8 win team in a bowl game, a team that's going to rest their starters and take the game for granted.
For real, that's exactly what should happen.
It's going to make the bowl game.
They should just drop out. If a team wants to drop out, they need to have somebody to plug in, man. That just doesn't make for good football. That doesn't make.
And don't just invite a 5-win team. Invite a team that won 6 or more games in the FCS, and say, look, you want to play in the FBS? Here's your job interview. Win this bowl game, and we're promoting you. That team will want to play for promotion. So everyone's talking about pro-rel and soccer. I think we need to add a pro-relegation. Relegation means you get demoted. We're not demoting any teams to the FCS in college football, but I think we need to incentivize FCS teams to play for a promotion into the FBS. Yeah,
for real. You know, I mean, and so many of these people complaining that, this group of Team 5 came in and, they made the playoffs. Well, the playoffs should, I figure,
and the bowl game should have 6 and 6 teams. There should not be any 5 and 7 SEC teams with losing records in bowl games just because it's advantageous to the schedule makers. No, we're not doing that. I would rather put a 9-1 North Dakota State team that actually earned 6 wins in a bowl game than put a 5 and 7 FCC team in a bowl game. I would. I'd rather put a team that actually won enough games to earn the right to play in a bowl game. I don't care if they're FCS or Division II or Division III. If teams are going to drop out of bowl games because they don't make the playoff like a bunch of entitled babies, you have to pivot and say, you know what? We're going to give FCS teams the opportunity to play for a spot in the big leagues. And if they win, they get to come to the big leagues. They join a conference.
It gives everyone a chance. It'll give, views to some of these players that don't generally get them. Just because a player is playing as a 5-star recruit and everything doesn't mean, or should I say that the opposite way, to where they're not, a 5-star recruit or whatever, but they come in, they play, they do well, everything else, that doesn't mean that they're not a good player. It just means that they weren't looked at. Maybe somebody skipped past them. They played for UCF or whatever or whoever, and they're just not that good. It's like, well, I mean, some guys just don't get the views, and some guys don't get, that kind of whatever you want to call it, to be out there and be seen. And I think they all should be. I mean, these kids, no matter what my evaluations say, no matter how bad I get on Caleb Williams for some of the stuff he did, I wish nothing but the best for all these kids, man. I mean, they are just they go out there, they give their, their livelihoods, their health, everything else, just to play ball, and it's like they used to not be able to even get a cheeseburger and that kind of stuff. It's not right. I mean, I wish them all the best. And if I say that a player should be drafted in the third round, well, in the third round, maybe they wouldn't have so much hype attached to them to where it's something that they can't live down. And that is the problem in college football today, and just everything that's going on. I mean, every single one of them needs to.
If
it could be
I
the
were
last
an
chance
athletic
that they ever have to
director
play
running
football,
a
man.
college football team, my proposition would be you're gonna get 10 grand for every game we win. Or every game you play and you get 10 grand. Every game you win, you get 100 grand. Because some athletes want $1 million in NIL money. You get 10 grand for every game you play, 100 grand for every game you win. And no, it's a game-by-game contract. Take it or leave it. You don't like our culture? Bye. That's my thought process as an athletic director. You probably either hate the fact that you're working with someone like that or you love it. Because it's like because it's straight to the point. It's bare bones. It's straight to the point.
It's like back when I was running.
We're saying we'll pay you if you're the best, but you're going to earn it, and that's the problem with the NIL. I
used to have a concrete and excavating company, and I wouldn't pay any of my helpers by the hour. I would tell them, look, I'm going to give you $150, and we're either going to be drinking beer at the bar by 3:00, or we could be here the next 2 days. You get paid the same amount of money. And that just kind of goes into the fact that if you win, that's what you're after as a competitor. It shows who you are, and there is nothing more I love in this world than competing against someone. And the better the competition I played, the better I play, and it's just one of those things. And there are so many things wrong with football, how it is. So many just sports, just so many of these players.
Two players from the MLS draft saw minutes as rookies in the first week of the season. One was the number one pick in the draft. He only got 1 minute, which is most among regular season games. The other player, Charles Emil Brunet, a third-round pick who got 5 minutes in the CONCACAF game, 23 of 27 on passes in those 5 minutes. So, and he was a third-round pick. I had a first-round grade on the guy in my final MLS mock, but he fell to the third round, and he got a first-team contract with Nashville. First team means you're on the major league squad. You're not on the minor league team. You're on the major league team. So that's an awesome story. I think only 2 draft picks in the third round the last 5 years for soccer have gotten a first-team contract. Jasper Loffelsend of Pitt, Charles Emil Brunet of SMU. Those are the only. That's it. No one else got a first-team contract. The other guys that got drafted and signed rookie deals in the third round of the MLS draft got second-team contracts in MLS Next. So, yeah, that's awesome that a third-round pick looks like the best player in the MLS draft. That's an awesome story. We need a story like that in this year's NFL draft. What day
we definitely
three?
Do.
And it's not going to be as awesome as Brock Purdy. We need to come to terms with that. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
That's all of them.
Yeah. That is a once-in-a-lifetime draft story. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Just like Brady.
Last pick in the draft. Yeah, how long did that last?
Again.
His entire career? Joe Montana was drafted in the
third round. Notre Dame.
Okay.
The Niners series on AMC. The first episode's free on Amazon and YouTube. Then you have to get AMC Plus to watch the rest of the series, which sucks because it looks like a really good series. It looks like they put more effort into this Niners series than Apple TV put into the Apple TV made a 10-part series on the Patriots, but like part 7 and 8 focused on the tension between Kraft and Belichick. They really milked it with those last few episodes because they were trying so hard to recreate the Last Dance on Netflix, what the Bulls did. And what the Bulls did with that documentary was great. But Apple TV was trying so hard to recreate that with the Patriots, it just felt like they were milking the last few episodes. So I think the Niners doing 4 episodes on their franchise, that's a good number. You get what you want out of the series and you don't overdo it.
Oh, dude, just speaking of the Niners, that just thinking about that, I still can't get over in the Super Bowl, man, watching Joe Montana flip that coin. I watched that son of a bitch and it just wobbled, dude. It wasn't going end over end. I absolutely love that. You know, I mean, sorry, I just had to throw that in there. It's still, you know, I love it because it was our rival. He's like, yeah, screw those guys. Just kind of wobbled off, but yeah, no, the first one was great, and you know, having those interviews on there and just having what I saw of Joe Montana, you know, between the commercials and stuff.
Interesting. Kevin
being able to
LeBlanc
see
just said the
who he
best
is.
quarterback in this draft is Arkansas's Taylon Green.
Oh,
I mean, Taylon Green, was he at the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl? I think he was at one of the All-Star games. I don't remember which one, though. We'll look it up right now before we... I know we've been on the air for over an hour. The closing thoughts
right about
for the MLS, I wanted to get that. I did finish a 2-round mock on Draft Prospect Hockey today. You can go to that. I'll leave a link in the description on the Draft Utopia page. This is under the bleachers. I'm only going to link stuff William wants me to link in the description page since this is his show. But yeah, Taylon Green was at the Senior Bowl, 6'6", 229, 10-inch hands, 35-inch arm length. So he has the best size and physical attributes of the QBs at the Senior Bowl from what I'm gathering.
Yep, definitely.
Cole Payton had the biggest hands, but it's like he had a really underwhelming Senior Bowl. I didn't think Taylon Green was anything special at his Senior Bowl, but I also think he was better than Cole Payton.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, listed with the 4.
I'm guessing Taylon Green's going to be throwing at the Combine. I'm guessing Taylon Green's going to be throwing Sawyer Robertson, Luke Altmaier, Cade Klubnik, Baron Morton. All the guys that got invites to the Combine that are not Mendoza are going to be throwing at the Combine. I think the only one that might decline is Carson Beck. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss is going back to Ole Miss. Aguilar's going to be throwing in a limited capacity.
If we're looking for a feel-good story at quarterback, I've got 2 players here. And number one, I'll just say it. You already know this. Jared Nussmeier is a coach on the field. Everything else, daddy was a coach. I mean,
I think it's
he might have got benched, but there was so much going on there.
It is a great draft for defense. I've got 18 players in the first round of my NFL draft simulator, and I think we put 14 defenders in this year's NHL draft for the first round. There are 13 defenders that project as a line 1 player as a number 1 or number 2 defenseman in the NHL. 13. And then and then there was a guy that was 6'2", 203 pounds in Finland, who's a late first round pick, but he's a 3rd-line guy on his team. We put him on the Islanders at 31 because I was hell bent on breaking the record for most defensemen drafted in the first round, and I have currently 14 defensemen going in the first round of this year's NHL draft. 14. The record was 13 back in 2018 when Rasmus Dahlin and Quinn Hughes, who just led Team USA to a gold medal, all these guys got drafted in the first round. The record for most defensemen was 13 back in 2018. That's when Quinn Hughes was drafted, just won a gold medal with Team USA. I will talk about that more on Alex Nye, Hockey Guy, tomorrow. Pilot of that is tomorrow, and that will be immediately following our Combine show tomorrow. And tomorrow's group will be the defensive line and the linebackers, who will be in the thumbnail for tomorrow at 3. It'll be David Bailey Jr. Since he hasn't said he's not going to work out. We know Ruben Bain Jr. is not going to work out. So who's the best defensive lineman not named Ruben Bain Jr.? It's David Bailey. So if David Bailey works out, great. If he doesn't work out, we're kind of screwed. I don't know who the headline player will be tomorrow, but we'll figure that out then.
Yeah.
I think this show's gone on long enough. As much as I'd like to continue it, I got stuff to do. You got stuff to do. I think we're a good
One
stopping
more
point.
player that I was looking at is Drew Aller. With the ups and downs he's had in his career and the ups.
I
I've
love that he's
absolutely
throwing at the
seen
combine.
for a
It's
quarterback.
awesome.
Yes, very much. That's one
How
thing
many
right
times do you
there.
get to see a preseason top 5 pick throw at the combine? It doesn't happen very often.
And if we're talking about defense, give me Lander Barton as a surprise.
Lander
Feel-good story.
Barton's going to be at the combine tomorrow. I think he'll be. Well, we
That's
can
who I got.
always go over the list tomorrow, but yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
Yeah.
go over the list tomorrow.
we'll be back.
It's been a long day, and we got to stay hydrated. We got to stay focused, driven on our goals and stuff. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I will make sure to replace the thumbnail. It's unfortunate we couldn't get Joey on tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a schedule, and I'm not going to comment any further. I mean, I'm back on good terms with Joey. I want to keep things that way. So yeah, he'll be on Saturday though. I mean, right now the combine, we've got a 3 p.m. show. We're only going to record till 7 because I've got a show with Alex at 7:30. I don't want to overwork William like I've done in previous years. Friday the combines from 3 to 8. It's the secondary, and then Saturday from 1 to 8 or 1 to 9. It's going to be the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. That show's going to start at noon because I'm going to give Joey the opportunity to recap the first 2 days of the combine as well as preview the offensive line. So we'll start the Saturday show at noon, and then 1 p.m. will be the final day of the combine, the offensive line. So that'll be the combine schedule for this week. And then next week, what's the plan for next week? I've already decided. On Under the Bleachers, it's to be decided. On Draft Utopia, the NHL trade deadline is Friday, March 6th. So we will probably have a hockey show next Saturday on Draft Utopia because I just got a 2-round NHL mock-up and the trade deadline's next week. So if there's a big trade involving some first or second round picks, that's going to screw up my mock draft. That could a huge NHL trade could screw up my mock draft. That's certainly on the table depending on what happens within the next, because I think a big trade is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I know one trade happened yesterday. Brett Kulak, a bottom pairing defenseman who was on the Edmonton Oilers, signed a 1-year deal with the Penguins, got traded to Colorado in exchange for Samuel Girard, the Avalanche's third best defender. He got traded to the Penguins. They gave up Girard a second-round pick to get Kulak. I wouldn't have made that trade, but hey, Avalanche really wants to conquer that monkey and beat Minnesota and Dallas in the playoffs this year. Kulak helped Edmonton beat Dallas in the conference finals 2 years in a row. So they're willing to pay a premium if it's going to help them get past Dallas. I don't know if this will work out. I think Girard's a better player than Kulak, but we'll see what happens because both the Penguins and the Avalanche are in playoff contention right now. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, the hockey show will be next Saturday. It'll be this Saturday, but the combine's on. Combine is football talk only. That's code for football talk only. So the hockey stuff will have to wait. And then we'll try to get some baseball previews in on the 14th and the 21st. I'm sure we'll have brackets out. There will be March Madness. I don't know when the brackets come out. We also are going to have NFL free agency news, but free agency doesn't start till March 11th, Wednesday. So I'm guessing we will have it Under the Bleachers free agency show on March 11th. And I don't know what we will be doing next Wednesday yet, but 2 weeks from today, I guarantee we're having Under the Bleachers free agency bonanza. That's probably what we're going to call it.
We're going to have, get somebody like Joey on or get somebody else on here, and man, that's just going to go right through the freaking roof. I mean,
we should just get every guest we have. We should combine our guest lists and try to get everyone we have. Like, we start a free.
That would be interesting, man.
The window opens up at 3 p.m. So we do like a 2 or 3 hour show, but we try to get multiple guests on each hour, and we just rock and roll and have free agency conversations.
I like it, and get everybody's, opinion of their team, and get everyone's opinion on everything else. And
it's like our Super Bowl show, but it's like for free agency. Yeah. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. That could be a good idea for 2 weeks from now. And if you wanted to take a week off because of the combine and because of free agency, I'd be okay with that. If you didn't want to do a show next week, because we've kind of earned it. If we're doing like 4 or 5 days of shows in a row, You want to take next week off and then just come back in 2 weeks and we just focus on the day one of free agency for Under the Bleachers? Because that just seems like the simplest and most effective strategy, you know? Gives you more time to plan out who we want to bring on if we get multiple guests on in 2 weeks from now. That just seems like the best strategy, in my opinion. We seem to agree on that.
We'll have it figured out here before Friday. So
yeah, we might have a show next week. If we don't, it'll be in 2 weeks from now, first day of NFL free agency. So
we'll let you guys know. I'll throw a reel on or something like that.
Yeah,
explaining everything. So
that was the teaser.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for everything you've done for Under the Bleachers, Chris. And
and Emmanuel's going to have Sports Head Radio. There's going to be a March Madness edition of that in a few weeks when the brackets come out. And yeah, I know how to code brackets, so I'll have a bracket coded with all my winners as the games come out. And then Emmanuel will come on. He's had the correct bracket 2 years in a row. So that'll be a Draft Utopia Sports Head Radio collaboration. And then I don't know what we'll do after that because I've coded the women's and the men's brackets the last few years. And then we'll have, I don't know when March Madness is. I'll look that up. We'll figure that out at a later date. I got a lot I still got to do, but yeah, thanks for joining, and I'll get the thumbnail updated. See you guys later.
Later, guys.